Imagine stepping off a plane in a new country. You're filled with excitement, right? The promise of adventure is like hanging in the air. But then this sudden wave of apprehension hits. You realize you're not actually sure how to express even basic needs or, navigate local customs beyond just pointing and hoping for the best.
Yeah, that point and hope strategy only gets you so far.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That moment where you think, okay, my travel app is great, but it can't order me a gluten-free meal or help me figure out tipping.
Right. Those nuanced things.
So let's dive into this. Today, we're embarking on an essential deep dive into what we're calling the Ultimate Travel English Survival Guide.
Okay.
And this isn't just for a trip to the U.S., though it's perfectly tailored for that. It's really designed to equip you for pretty much any English-speaking destination. We've meticulously analyzed, a robust stack of sources packed with crucial phrases, insightful cultural observations, and really practical on-the-ground tips that go way beyond just simple translation.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is that our mission isn't just about handing you a list of words to memorize. Not at all.
Right.
We're aiming to extract those vital nuggets of knowledge that empower you with not only the right phrases, but also the confidence and, crucially, the cultural understanding to truly immerse yourself.
Yeah, that confidence piece is huge.
It is. We want you to navigate common travel scenarios, grasp those nuanced cultural cues, and maybe even master the art of small talk, ensuring your journey feels genuinely easy breezy, just as our primary source promises.
You're going to get everything you need, from confidently ordering food without feeling, embarrassed, to understanding the intricacies of tipping etiquette, which, let's be honest, can be a bit of a minefield.
Oh, definitely.
And even learning how to initiate conversations and make new connections with small talk. So what does this all mean for you? It means a significant shortcut to being genuinely well-informed, prepared for any surprising facts you might encounter, and ready to embrace and enjoy every single moment of your travel experience, leaving that feeling of information overload far behind.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
Let's jump right into your essential travel English phrases, your absolute survival toolkit. And we're kicking things off where many of your best travel memories are made, or at least started, eating out and navigating the often unique American dining experience.
Okay, eating out. So when you first walk into almost any restaurant in the U.S., the server or host will almost certainly greet you with a simple, direct question, how many?
Right, just how many?
Yeah, it might seem a bit abrupt if you're not used to it, but they're just politely asking how many people are in your group, or as we sometimes say, your party, even if it's just, two of you.
Or big family.
Or big family. It's just concise and efficient, really.
And the polite responses are equally straightforward. You could say, I'd like a table for 4, please. Or maybe a bit more casual, but still perfectly fine, can I get a table for 4?
Both work perfectly.
Then, once you're seated, and you're maybe staring at a menu filled with unfamiliar options, or perhaps you just want to try the best thing the place offers, don't hesitate to ask, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, that's a great question to ask.
Our source really emphasizes that most servers are actually incredibly honest. They'll often suggest popular items, maybe the daily specials, or the restaurant's unique specialties, not just the most expensive thing on the menu.
Right. It's a good way to tap into local knowledge.
It really is. It's a great way to discover something truly local.
And the value of asking for recommendations in a U.S. dining context, it really taps into that local expertise. Like you said, servers spend all day seeing what people enjoy, right? What dishes get praised, what the kitchen really excels at. It's not just about a list of ingredients. It's about finding those unique dishes or specialties you might not discover otherwise. It can turn a meal into, a more authentic culinary experience.
Okay, now let's talk about something that can be a pleasant surprise for many international travelers. Dietary needs and customization.
Ah, yes. Customization. Very American.
Very American. The U.S. dining scene is incredibly accommodating in this regard, sometimes to an extent that might, frankly, amaze you. If you have dietary restrictions, you're absolutely welcome, even encouraged, to state them clearly. Common phrases include, are there any vegetarian options? Are there any vegan options? Or are there any gluten-free options?
And if you have a direct allergy, it's really crucial to be very clear and specific. Don't be shy about it.
Definitely not.
You can state, I'm allergic to nuts. Are there any nut-free options? Or I'm allergic to gluten. Are there any gluten-free options?
Good point. And many menus now actually have symbols, right? Like a G with a line through it for gluten-free, or maybe a V for vegetarian.
Yeah, you see those quite a lot now. But if you don't see them or you're unsure, absolutely ask. Servers are trained to handle these requests seriously.
So this is where it gets really interesting, especially if you're from a country where menus are pretty much set in stone. Customizing your order is, like you said, a quintessential American dining trait.
It really is.
It's truly not about being picky. It's more about getting exactly what you want. And servers are generally very accommodating because, well, it's part of the customer service culture here.
No more awkwardly picking off unwanted ingredients.
Exactly. No more picking off mushrooms one by one. For example, you can say, "Can I get the cheeseburger and hold the lettuce and tomato?"
Hold the lettuce and tomato.
That word hold is key. It just means to omit an ingredient, leave it out. And it's perfectly normal, very common.
You could also say, "Can I get the dressing on the side?" That's a big one for salads.
Oh yeah, super common. Or, "Can I substitute the fries for a salad?"
Right. All very standard requests. They probably hear them dozens of times a day.
Another thing the U.S. is notoriously famous for is gigantic portion sizes.
Oh boy, yes. It's absolutely true. You often get these huge amounts of food, sometimes easily enough for 2 meals.
Right. So what happens if you don't finish it all? Which, let's be honest, is probably most of the time for an average eater.
Yeah, absolutely no pressure to clean your plate. It's perfectly normal, even expected sometimes, to ask for a to-go box.
Okay, so how do you ask?
Just say, "Can I get a to-go box, please?" Simple as that.
And what happens then? Do they take it away?
Sometimes, yeah, the server might actually take your plate to the kitchen and box it for you.
Right.
But I'd say more often they'll just bring you the empty box, maybe a container in a bag, and you pack up your own leftovers right there at the table.
Okay, good to know. And it's a convenient way to get a next day meal or, a snack for later. And it's super common. So really don't feel any embarrassment about it.
Not at all. And finally, maybe a critical cultural nuance here. When you're done eating and ready to leave, getting the check.
Ah, yes. The check.
You might have seen this in movies, right? People snapping their fingers or yelling, "Check, please," across the room.
Yeah, definitely seen that.
Well, do not do that. While it's common in films, in real life, it's considered quite rude or at least abrupt in most American dining establishments.
Okay, so no snapping fingers. What's the polite way?
The polite and universally accepted phrase is, "Can I get the check, please? Thanks."
Just adding "can I get" and thanks.
Exactly. It's a small difference in words, but it makes a huge impact on how you're perceived. It signifies respect for the service provided.
That makes sense. And usually servers will bring the check eventually anyway, often saying something like, "Take your time, there's no rush."
Right. But if you are in a hurry or just ready to go, "Can I get the check, please? Thanks," is definitely the way to ask politely.
It really highlights that emphasis on maybe politeness and a bit of indirectness in American social interactions, doesn't it?
It does. It avoids that brusque tone, which is generally not appreciated in customer service interactions here.
All right, let's shift gears from satisfying your appetite to satisfying your retail therapy needs.
Okay, shopping.
Our next category is shopping, from browsing to buying. And our source actually shares a relatable anecdote about getting stuck in Costa Rica because they understood the sales staff's questions, but didn't know how to respond appropriately to say they were just looking. We definitely don't want that for you.
Wait, you need the escape phrase.
Yeah.
So when you walk into a shop in the U.S., especially maybe a smaller boutique or a less busy department store, the sales staff will likely approach you fairly quickly. They'll ask things like, "Hi, are you looking for anything? Can I help you?" Or maybe, "Are you looking for anything special or anything in particular?"
And this isn't meant to be intrusive, right? It's just part of the customer service norm.
Exactly. Sometimes it's even tied to their sales performance. So the easiest and clearest responses, if you're just browsing, are simple and to the point. "Just looking. Thanks."
Just looking. Thanks. Got it.
Or, "I'm just looking. Thanks." Straightforward, polite, does the job.
And if they ask you specifically if you're looking for anything special or anything in particular,
You can actually mirror their exact words in your reply, which helps reinforce your message. "No, I'm not looking for anything special. I'm just looking." Or, "No, I'm not looking for anything in particular. I'm just looking."
okay, that's clever. It helps them understand you don't need immediate help and lets you browse freely without feeling pressured.
Exactly. But what if you do need specific help?
Right.
If you're looking for a specific item, you can just state it. "I'm looking for some special chocolate to buy as a gift." Or turn it into a direct question. "Do you have any special chocolate that I could buy as a gift?"
Or you could ask about departments, like, where can I find men's shoes?
Precisely.
Uh,
Or, "Could you point me to the electronics section?" Very common.
And when it comes to clothes, trying them on is not just common, but very much expected in the U.S., isn't it? Unlike some other countries where maybe it's not always the case or requires special permission.
Oh yeah, absolutely expected. If you need a dressing room, or a fitting room, as some call it, you can ask, can I try this on, while holding up the item.
Or just generally, can I have a dressing room?
Yep. They'll usually direct you right to one. They might even ask how many items, so they can assign you an appropriately sized room or keep track.
And don't be afraid to ask for different sizes. Do you have this in a size larger? Or does this come in blue?
Totally. That's what the staff are there for. Now for payment, credit and debit cards are overwhelmingly accepted across the U.S.
Pretty much everywhere.
Pretty much everywhere. Even for very small purchases, like $1 or $2 in regular retail stores, you'll almost always see those little Visa or MasterCard icons on shop windows or at the register. That's your signal.
Okay. Are there any exceptions, though?
There are a few. Some smaller independent shops, we call them mom and pop shops, or maybe certain food trucks, might have a minimum purchase amount for card use. Maybe like $5 or $10.
Why is that?
It's usually because of the transaction fees the banks charge them. So it's always a good idea to confirm if you're unsure, especially in smaller places. Just asking, do you take credit cards, is a perfectly common question.
Okay. And what if you hit the rare cash-only situation? Our source says it's getting uncommon, but it could happen.
Right. If that happens, your next question should probably be, is there an ATM nearby?
ATM?
Yeah, ATM stands for Automated Teller Machine. It's our common term for a cash machine or cash point.
Gotcha.
And cash-only places usually know exactly where the nearest ones are located, maybe at a nearby bank or sometimes a gas station or convenience store.
And in the absolute worst-case scenario, like they don't take cards, there's no ATM nearby, but you've found something you absolutely must have.
You can try being resourceful. Ask, do you have a website? Maybe, do you offer international shipping?
Oh, interesting idea.
Or even ask if they can hold the item for you, maybe ship it to your hotel if you're staying for a few more days. It's always worth a try if it's a unique item you really want.
Good tip. And a final quick note on shopping. Remember that the price you see on the tag or shelf usually doesn't include sales tax.
Ah, yes, sales tax. That gets added at the checkout, and it varies by state and even county.
So your final total will always be a little bit higher than the price listed. Just a heads up.
Definitely something to budget for.
Okay, moving on to your home away from home. Hotels and accommodation. Whether you're in a traditional hotel, a motel, or maybe an Airbnb, these phrases will help you get settled and make the most of your stay.
Right. So if you have a pre-booked reservation, when you approach the front desk, you simply say, "Hi, I have a reservation under your last name."
And be ready with ID and credit card, right?
Exactly. Be prepared for the standard procedure. They'll likely ask to see your driver's license or passport for identification and the credit card you used for the reservation.
Why the card again?
They often place a temporary hold called pre-authorization for incidentals. You know, things like minibar charges or potential damages. It usually gets released after you check out if everything's okay.
Okay. What about for the more courageous traveler who prefers to book on arrival?
Walking in. Well, you can specify your room preference by saying something like, "I'd like a room with 2 queen beds, please," or "I'd like a room with 1 king bed."
And what if you have special needs? Or maybe just a preference?
You can absolutely ask, "I'd like a room with elevator access," or "I'd like a room on the first floor." We often call the first floor the ground floor, too.
Okay.
That just ensures easier accessibility. You could also ask for a quiet room, maybe away from the elevator, or a room with a view, though that might cost more.
Good point. Once you're settled, remember that hotel staff and Airbnb hosts are often fantastic local resources.
Invaluable, really. Don't hesitate to ask, do you have a map, or do you have any recommendations for food and attractions nearby?
Yeah, they often have lists, pamphlets, or even just personal notebooks filled with insider tips.
Exactly. Everything from the best local coffee shop to hidden parks. They can also tell you about hotel amenities, what time is breakfast served, or where's the pool located, or what's the Wi-Fi password.
This highlights a crucial point for you, our listener. While your phone's GPS is incredibly helpful for basic navigation, seriously, don't underestimate the power of local knowledge. Asking, what's the best way to get there, or how do I get there? From a local, like the hotel concierge or your Airbnb host, can reveal cheaper, faster, or maybe more scenic routes that your app might completely miss.
Like our source mentioned, maybe finding out about a direct train with great views instead of just driving directions.
Exactly. These personal recommendations can truly enhance your experience, helping you discover local gems. And also, don't hesitate to use phrases if something's wrong, like, the air conditioning isn't working in my room, or if you need something simple, could I get extra towels, please?
Right. Polite but direct.
Now for a bonus category, but one that is absolutely crucial if you're planning to explore beyond major city centers in the U.S., renting a car.
Yes, very important for exploring the U.S.
And this is where you really don't want to get gypped, which is a colloquial term meaning, feeling like you're spending too much money for something that isn't worth it, or being unfairly treated.
Right, you want transparency. So when you're at the rental counter, you can clearly state your preference. I'd like a small sedan for 5 days. Or I'm looking to rent an SUV for 5 days.
And they have different classes, right? Like economy, compact.
Yeah, economy, compact, mid-size, full-size, SUVs, minivans, all sorts. If they offer you something that seems too big or maybe too fancy for your needs, you can definitely ask for alternatives.
How would you phrase that?
You could say, do you have that in the compact size? Or do you have anything smaller? Or conversely, if you need more space, do you have that in the SUV size?
Okay, that ensures you get the right vehicle for your needs and avoid overpaying for unnecessary features.
Exactly. And you might want to ask, does it have GPS? Or is it an automatic transmission? Manual cars or stick shifts are very rare to rent in the US now.
Good point. Next, understanding costs and deposits is absolutely vital. You'll almost certainly hear about a deposit.
Right. They might say, for example, a $100 deposit required, but it will be returned to your card as long as the car is returned in good condition.
So it's a temporary hold.
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
On your credit card. Sometimes they'll explicitly say refundable deposit, which makes it clear you'll get that money back if the car is returned undamaged and on time with the right amount of fuel.
So it's important to ask.
Definitely ask, how much is the refundable deposit? Or is there a refundable deposit? Just so you're prepared with the funds on your card and not surprised.
Okay. And then there's the cost itself. The agent might initially just tell you the daily cost or daily rate, right?
Yeah, but that rarely includes everything. That's the base rate. You absolutely need to ask, what is the total cost, including all taxes and fees?
The total cost. That's the key phrase.
That is the key phrase. It ensures you understand all the added fees, potential insurance options, and various taxes that contribute to the final price you'll actually pay.
And if that total cost feels too high, can you negotiate?
You can absolutely try a polite negotiation. Ask something like, is there any way to bring that number down?
Really? Does that work?
Sometimes. It's especially useful if they've automatically included maybe unnecessary insurance packages, things like collision damage waiver or CDW.
Right, which might already be covered by your personal car insurance from home, or maybe even by the credit card you're using.
Exactly. Always check your credit card benefits beforehand. Many premium cards offer rental car insurance coverage. Don't pay twice for insurance you don't need.
Good tip. Also, clarify the fuel policy, right? Do I need to return it with a full tank?
Yes, or what's your fuel policy? Some want it full, some match the level you got it at, some offer prepaid fuel, which is usually not a great deal. Knowing avoids surprise refueling charges.
And maybe ask about tolls, especially in big cities.
Good point.
Yeah.
How do tolls work with this rental? Or does it have an electronic toll pass like an EZ Pass? Some rentals include them, some charge extra, some make you pay tolls yourself. Best to know upfront.
Okay. Finally, for returning of the vehicle, the common terms you'll hear are return and drop off.
If the agent doesn't explicitly tell you where to bring the car back, always ask, where should I return the vehicle? Or where should I drop off the car?
And this raises a really important point for you, the listener. Why is understanding all these car rental terms so vital?
Well, it's fundamentally about transparency and avoiding feeling like you got ripped off or gypped, as you said. Knowing the difference between the daily rate and the total cost, clarifying the deposit and insurance procedures, and understanding the return options protects you from unexpected fees and just ensures a smoother rental experience overall.
And it's especially crucial for one-way trips, isn't it? Where you might pick up the car at the airport and need to drop it off somewhere else, like in a different city or maybe just a downtown location.
Absolutely. In that case, you'd specifically need to ask, is there another location that I can return or drop off the car? Or can I drop this car off at the downtown location instead of the airport? Planning that ahead can save you significant time and potentially a lot of money in drop-off fees.
Okay. With those practical phrases for daily scenarios firmly under our belt, let's move beyond just the words and dive into navigating U.S. culture, some truly essential tips that will really shape your overall experience and expectations.
Right, the cultural context. Where are we starting?
We'll start with first impressions, specifically at airports, and then how to find local recommendations using apps.
Okay, so crucially, U.S. airports. Well, they are generally not the best representation of American people or culture.
That's a really important point.
It is. Many visitors, and even the speaker in our main source, report having, frankly, unpleasant experiences sometimes. Loud, rushed environments, maybe staff who seem unhelpful, confusing processes.
Yeah, the anecdote about the kind Korean grandpa at customs who was met with a loud, sort of unhelpful officer really illustrates this. Airports are often just high-stress environments for both travelers and the staff working there.
Definitely. So the advice is, if you have a negative, rushed, or less than friendly experience at a U.S. airport when you first land, try to just take a deep breath.
Right. Don't let it color your whole view.
Exactly. Remember that this is often just an airport thing, kind of its own unique bubble of efficiency and security protocols. It's not usually a true reflection of general American friendliness or helpfulness. It's just a distinct environment with specific pressures.
Okay, good perspective. Now, once you're out of the airport, how do you find good local spots? Restaurants, bars, maybe even services like hairdressers?
There's one go-to app for Americans for almost all of that.
Yeah.
Yelp. Y-E-L-P.
Yelp, okay.
This is absolutely what locals use for reviews and recommendations on pretty much any local business you can think of.
So this is a vital tip you need to remember. If you want to eat, drink, and experience things like a local, you absolutely need to download and use the Yelp app. It's really the insider's guide to the best, most authentic spots.
From hidden gem cafes to highly rated repair shops, it covers a lot.
And crucially, don't confuse it with TripAdvisor.
Right. TripAdvisor is great, especially for international travel planning. But in the U.S., it's typically used more for sightseeing, major landmarks, and maybe hotels, not so much for everyday local dining recommendations or local services. Yelp is king for that.
And Yelp has detailed reviews, photos, you can filter by price, cuisine.
Yeah, specific amenities, all sorts. It's incredibly powerful for finding exactly what you're looking for locally.
Okay. Next up, the often mystifying but absolutely non-negotiable art of tipping.
Tipping, yes. Non-negotiable is a good word for it in many contexts.
And understanding transportation choices, too.
Yeah.
So tipping etiquette in the U.S. is fundamental for service staff, primarily because it constitutes a significant portion of their wage.
Yeah, sometimes it's even their entire livable income, particularly for restaurant servers, who often earn a very, very low hourly base wage mandated by law, with the expectation that tips will make up the difference.
So for restaurants and bars, what's the standard?
A 20% tip for adequate or good service is considered absolutely essential.
20%. Okay.
It's really not optional in the way it might be in other countries. It's part of the expected cost of the service.
What if the service was genuinely terrible?
Okay, if the service was truly terrible, like objectively awful, not just average or slightly slow, you could technically choose not to tip at all, or maybe leave a very small tip, like 10%. But honestly, 20% is the unquestioned standard for normal, decent service.
And what about at a bar, just for a drink?
Even at a bar, if your 20% tip on a single drink works out to be less than $1, it's generally considered polite to still leave a minimum of a dollar bill.
Not just crines.
Right. Our source, who used to be a server, mentions that leaving only coins is often seen as quite rude, kind of like a deliberate insult signaling dissatisfaction.
Wow. Okay, and does that 20% apply elsewhere? Taxis, hotels?
Generally, yes. The same 20% standard often applies to taxi drivers, hotel porters who help with your bags, sometimes even delivery drivers.
What about ride sharing like Uber?
For Uber or Lyft, tipping isn't technically required in the same way because drivers are paid per ride or sometimes hourly. However, tips are always accepted and deeply appreciated, and you can usually give them easily right through the app after your ride.
Okay, so the underlying reason tipping is so ingrained is really economic, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's not merely a gesture of appreciation, though it is that too. It's a fundamental part of the economic structure for many service professionals in the U.S., rooted in our labor laws and historical practices.
So understanding this isn't just about generosity.
No, it's about fulfilling a social and economic obligation that directly impacts someone's livelihood. It's deeply embedded in the service industry model here. It's a key cultural differentiator you need to be aware of.
Got it. Now, shifting to transportation choices, What's the main recommendation?
We strongly recommend, and this really can't be overstated, renting a car when visiting the U.S. Unless your entire trip is confined to the very, very center of a few major, well-corrected cities with excellent public transport, like maybe Manhattan in New York or downtown San Francisco or central Washington, D.C.
And why is that? Why is a car so essential usually?
The reason is simple and geographic. The U.S. is incredibly spread out, vast distances.
Right.
Getting from one side of a sprawling city like Los Angeles or exploring the suburbs of Houston or Atlanta can be incredibly difficult, expensive, and super time-consuming without your own car. Public transport often just doesn't cover those areas well.
And what about visiting national parks? That's a big draw for many visitors.
Absolutely requires the car, pretty much always. Visiting places like Yosemite from San Francisco or the Grand Canyon or Yellowstone involves significant driving distances that public transportation simply can't cover efficiently, if at all.
And Uber or taxis for those long distances.
Just not feasible. It would become prohibitively expensive very quickly. Budgeting for a rental car really opens up your travel possibilities and allows for genuine exploration beyond the main tourist hubs.
Okay, that's very clear advice. Let's talk about something that can be a truly complex and varied landscape across the U.S., decoding alcohol laws.
Ah, yes. This one has several surprising parts, and it varies a lot by state.
Okay, first up, ID requirements.
Incredibly strict and broad, you absolutely must be 21 years old to legally buy or consume alcohol. No exceptions.
And they actually check.
Oh, they check. Expect to be asked for ID. Your passport is usually best for international visitors if you appear anywhere under 40. Sometimes even under 50 or 60 in some places, depending on the store policy. They often have signs saying, "We ID under 40," or similar.
Our source even shared that anecdote where the speaker at 31 was not asked for ID and actually felt a little offended thinking they looked over 40.
Right. It really highlights how pervasive these age verification rules are. It's just standard procedure.
And it gets even stranger. Sometimes they check everyone in a group.
Yes. This is a weird one, but true in some stores and states. Cashiers may actually ask for ID from everyone present in a group buying alcohol, even if only one person is actually making the purchase.
Wow. Like the speaker's story where her husband was paying, but they asked for her ID just because she was standing there with him?
Exactly. So if you're traveling with someone, even just a friend or partner, be prepared for both of you to potentially be ID'd when buying alcohol. Keep those passports handy.
Okay. Second point about alcohol laws. Where can you actually buy it? It's not always the same, is it?
Not at all. It varies significantly by state. It's definitely not consistent across the country. In some states, like Pennsylvania, for example, you cannot buy beer, wine, or liquor at grocery stores at all.
So where do you go?
You have to go to a specific state-controlled or licensed store, often called an ABC store, which stands for Alcohol Beverage Control.
ABC store.
Other states might allow beer and maybe wine in grocery stores, but require liquor to be bought at separate dedicated liquor stores. Some grocery stores might even have small, separate sections for beer or wine where you have to pay separately from your regular groceries.
It seems confusing.
It can be. It's always wise to just check local laws quickly online, or simply observe where locals seem to be buying alcohol. Look for signs on stores.
Okay, third point, Sunday sales restrictions. Is that still a thing?
It is in some states. These are often rooted in historical blue laws that had religious or moral origins, restricting certain activities on Sundays.
Like what kind of restrictions?
For example, in North Carolina, where our source lived, you cannot buy alcohol before a certain time on Sunday, often noon, or maybe even later in some areas.
So you could be in the grocery store, ready to check out, but they won't sell you wine at 11:45 a.m. on a Sunday.
Exactly. The source tells that story of waiting 15 minutes in the grocery store just for noon to strike so she could buy wine for a dinner party. It's an interesting historical quirk that still impacts daily life in some places.
Wow. Okay. Fourth point, public consumption. Can you drink alcohol outside?
Generally, no. You absolutely cannot drink alcohol in most public places like parks, on the street, or on public transport. There are strict open container laws that prohibit having an open alcoholic beverage in public spaces, including in your car.
What about beaches?
Beaches are tricky. Rules differ significantly by state and even by specific beach. Some public beaches strictly prohibit alcohol, others might allow it, especially more isolated ones. It's always best to research in advance or look for signs. A general rule of thumb, if you see lots of people openly drinking, it's probably allowed. If you don't see anyone doing it, assume it's not.
Right. Better safe than sorry. So if we connect this all together, the strict IDs, the weird state-by-state purchase rules, Sunday restrictions, public drinking bans, it does kind of paint a picture, doesn't it?
It really does. These seemingly arbitrary and diverse alcohol laws across the U.S. can indeed lead to the perception of America as being somewhat puritanical in its approach to alcohol.
And they're rooted in
Often in a really complex tapestry of historical factors, social attitudes, and even moral or religious influences that have shaped state-level regulations very differently over time. It makes for a fascinating, if sometimes confusing, mosaic of rules for visitors to navigate.
Definitely something to be aware of. Okay, moving on to essential social contexts that impact your interactions. People, health, and safety. First, let's tackle American friendliness.
Okay, so despite those often unpleasant airport experiences we talked about earlier,
Right, the airport bubble.
outside of that, many visitors actually find Americans generally friendlier and maybe smilier than they anticipated.
A pleasant contrast, hopefully.
Hopefully. Our source beautifully describes Americans using a peach analogy. Have you heard this one?
I think so. Soft outside, hard center.
Exactly. Americans often have a soft exterior, meaning we might be quick to smile, make eye contact, engage in small talk, or even extend a casual invitation like, oh, we should grab dinner sometime, after just meeting someone. But there's also potentially a hard center in that we may not always immediately follow up on those casual invitations. It doesn't necessarily indicate dislike, but maybe just a difference in social priority or a more relaxed, less binding approach to those very casual invitations.
So don't be offended if the dinner invitation doesn't materialize right away.
Pretty much. It's just a cultural nuance to understand. Initial friendliness doesn't always equate to immediate, deep friendship.
And where is this friendliness most common? Does it vary?
It can vary. Smiling and making eye contact is pretty common in medium-sized cities like where the source speaker lives, and definitely in more rural areas. However, in very large, fast-paced cities like New York or maybe Chicago, randomly smiling at strangers on the street might be perceived as unusual or could even lead to unexpected interactions.
So maybe adjust your approach based on the size and pace of the city you're in.
Yeah, that's good advice. The peach analogy kind of implies that genuine, deep friendships might take a bit longer to form, despite that initial warmth and openness.
Okay. Next topic, under people, health, and safety. Healthcare costs and access. The big one.
The big one indeed. The reality is, yes, U.S. healthcare is 100% true for being incredibly expensive if you don't have good insurance or specific travel coverage.
So what should a visitor do for minor health problems? Like needing an antibiotic for a sore throat or getting a small cut treated, maybe a few stitches?
For those kinds of minor non-emergency issues, we strongly recommend looking for an urgent care clinic. You'll see signs for them, sometimes named things like MedExpress or similar brands.
Urgent care. Okay.
These are walk-in clinics, usually no appointment needed. You can typically see a doctor or a nurse practitioner within an hour or two, and a visit usually costs significantly less than going to a hospital emergency room, often under $200, though it varies.
And hospital emergency rooms, or ERs as we call them.
ERs are strictly for serious, potentially life-threatening issues only. Things like chest pain, difficulty breathing, severe injuries.
And if you go there for something minor,
Using an ER for minor ailments can result in absolutely massive bills, easily several $1,000s minimum, even for just a brief consultation without any major treatment. The costs are staggering.
so the bottom line for visitors is,
Get travel insurance. It is absolutely essential that visitors get comprehensive travel insurance before visiting the U.S. to cover potential health emergencies.
it's a small investment for potentially huge savings.
Exactly. It provides significant peace of mind and could potentially save you tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in an unforeseen medical crisis. Don't skip it.
Okay, message received. Now, regarding safety awareness, media portrayals can sometimes be alarming. What's the reality?
Despite media focus on things like shootings and crime, the U.S. is generally pretty safe for tourists, especially if you stick to typical tourist areas and take normal precautions.
But personal awareness is key, right? Just like anywhere.
Absolutely. Just as it would be in any major city globally, always be alert and aware of your surroundings, especially in city centers, crowded tourist areas, or maybe using public transport late at night.
What does being aware look like in practice?
Well, we advise against walking around completely absorbed in your phone or listening to loud music through headphones, making you oblivious. Instead, look around you, observe your environment, walk purposefully, and just generally avoid making yourself look like an easy target.
The speaker in our source mentioned her personal habit is not to wander alone after dark in her small city, preferring to drive directly to destinations at night.
Yeah, that's a common precaution many people take, even in relatively safe areas. Now, for visitors from extremely safe countries, maybe like Korea or Japan, where leaving a phone unattended on a cafe table might be common.
Don't do that here.
Definitely don't do that here. Be extra cautious with your belongings. Don't leave a purse or backpack unattended, even for a second, like when going to the bathroom in a coffee shop. That's just not common practice in the U.S. and makes you vulnerable to opportunistic theft.
So the overall message is be alert and aware, but not necessarily scared or worried.
Precisely. It's about cultivating situational awareness and adopting prudent local habits, rather than letting potentially sensationalized media narratives dictate your entire experience. Being alert simply reduces your vulnerability and helps you navigate any environment with greater confidence.
Okay. And finally, under this section, and maybe most importantly for this deep dive, is the absolute necessity of using English.
Yes. You definitely need to use English when visiting the U.S., beyond just, simple greetings or pointing.
Why is that? Is it hard to find people who speak other languages?
It often can be, yes. The linguistic landscape here is such that most Americans whose families immigrated generations ago have unfortunately lost their ancestral native language and now primarily only speak English.
So it's not like some European countries where many people speak multiple languages.
Generally, no. Don't necessarily expect to find many people who speak your specific native language, whether it's, say, Vietnamese in Portland, Oregon, or Portuguese in Texas, unless you're in a very specific immigrant community neighborhood. Our source highlights this with her own family history. Italian heritage is there, but the language itself was lost over generations. It's a common American melting pot phenomenon.
But this presents an opportunity, right?
Absolutely. It's a fantastic opportunity for you. It's a great chance to actually use and practice your English in real-world scenarios.
Especially for those basic but essential interactions we've been talking about, like ordering food, asking for directions, asking those crucial safety or clarification questions.
Exactly. Embrace it as an opportunity to truly connect, navigate effectively, and improve your language skills all at the same time.
Okay, fantastic. We're moving on to mastering two crucial skills for getting around physically and connecting with people socially. Asking for and giving directions, and then the delightful and sometimes baffling art of small talk.
All right, directions and small talk. Let's do it.
Let's start with getting around. When asking for directions, you can use direct questions, right? And those can always be made polite just by adding, "excuse me," at the beginning, along with a friendly tone.
Like,
"Excuse me, my ticket says platform 6. Where is that?" Or if you're new to a workplace, maybe, "Excuse me, where do I go?" If you're visiting someone's house, how do I get there? And in an office setting, something simple like, "Where's the paper for the copy machine?"
okay, those are direct. What about slightly politer, maybe more natural sounding questions?
Yeah, the ones that frame your need a bit more indirectly. You could say, "Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to platform 6?
Okay.
Or something very common, "Excuse me, where can I find the toilet paper?" Which, as our source humorously pointed out, was a surprisingly difficult question to get a good answer to back in 2020.
True.
You can also frame it as a statement that's clearly perceived as a question, like, "Excuse me, I'm looking for Dr. Smith's office."
Or, excuse me, I'm trying to find Dr. Smith's office. Yeah, people understand that means, can you help me find it?
Exactly. It indicates your intention and prompts them to provide help.
And if you're genuinely lost,
You can just be direct and vulnerable. "Excuse me, can you help me find my classroom? I'm lost." People are usually happy to help if you ask nicely.
and if you just need a general point in the right direction, not like detailed steps.
Good question. You could try, "Excuse me, can you point me in the direction of the exit?" Or maybe a store. "Excuse me, can you point me in the direction of the breakfast cereal?"
Okay, so point me in the direction of signals. You just need a general pointing gesture, perhaps with a brief explanation, not someone to walk you there.
Exactly. Now, it's not just about asking the right questions. It's absolutely crucial to truly understand the answers you receive.
Oh yeah, listening carefully is key.
Our source provides some excellent examples for various real-world scenarios. Let's try a few. Imagine I'm asking, and you, our listener, try to picture navigating based on the expert's answer. Okay, inside a building, like a school or big office.
Okay, someone might tell you, go up to the 3rd floor, through the double doors, and down the hall, and it will be on the right.
Okay, key things there. Up to the floor, through the doors, and down the hall. That last one, down the hall, is a fixed phrase, right? It just means along the corridor, even if it's flat or slightly uphill.
Exactly. Down the hall or up the hall just means along the length of it. And pay attention to on the right or on the left.
Okay, makes sense. How about in a grocery store? If I ask where to find, say, organic cereal?
In a grocery store, you might hear, the organic breakfast cereal is over on aisle 3 near the canned fruit on the top shelf.
Okay, so over on points towards the aisle, near gives a landmark within the aisle, and on the top shelf gives the vertical position. Precise prepositions are key.
Very key. They might also say halfway down the aisle on your left.
Got it. What if I'm visiting a new city and I ask my local host for advice on a great coffee shop nearby? What might they say?
They might say something casual like, oh yeah, just head down the street a couple blocks, you can't miss it.
Okay, head down the street means go straight in that direction.
Generally, yes, go in that direction along the street. And a couple blocks typically means 2 or maybe 3 street blocks. It implies it's a pretty short walk.
And you can't miss it.
That's a common idiom, meaning it's very obvious or easy to see once you get close.
Okay. What about at the zoo? If I ask, can you prime me in the direction of the elephants? What's a typical zoo direction response?
The answer might be something like, okay, to get to the elephants, you need to go through the primate exhibit, turn left at the reptile house, and then loop around the safari exhibit.
All right, so go through means pass into and out of that area, turn left at, uses a landmark for the turn, and loop around implies maybe a circular path or an indirect route past something else.
Precisely. Zoo paths can be winding.
If I'm in a park trying to find the bathroom, or restrooms as they're often called,
someone might direct you with, okay, you need to follow the path around the park, go past the splash pad, and the bathrooms are right next to the merry-go-round.
Okay, follow the path. Past the splash pad. Uses another landmark. What about right next to? Does that always mean on the right side?
Great question. No, right next to means immediately beside or adjacent to, not necessarily on the right-hand side. So the bathrooms are immediately beside the merry-go-round. Good to clarify if you're unsure which side.
Ah, good distinction. At a concert, sporting event, or maybe a theater, if I need help finding my seat, how would an usher direct me?
The usher might say something like, okay, go up the ramp there to section 105, then go up the stairs to row 12, and your seat is about midway across the row.
Okay, section row, those are specific. What does midway across the row mean?
It means roughly in the middle of that row of seats, not at either end, but somewhere towards the center.
Gotcha. And finally, for transportation, like at a busy train station, if I'm lost trying to find my specific train,
you might be told, okay, go down the stairs there, turn to the left at the bottom, and follow the signs for platform 6. Then look for train number 34 on the board.
Okay, so follow the signs for and look for are really helpful phrases in those busy sign-filled environments.
Definitely. And what's truly fascinating here, when you break it down, is the really precise use of these prepositions through, around, past, up, down, near, next to, and these fixed expressions like down the hall or follow the signs.
They seem small, but they're critical for understanding.
Absolutely critical for unambiguous understanding. Mastering these helps you navigate complex environments with much more confidence and ensures you don't end up on the wrong side of town or missing your train because of a simple misinterpretation.
Okay, excellent breakdown of directions.
Yeah.
Now, beyond getting physically from point A to point B, let's talk about navigating social interactions with the art of small talk.
Small talk, connecting with Americans.
Yes, this is a skill that really unlocks deeper cultural understanding and makes interactions just smoother.
So first off, what exactly is small talk? It's basically defined as a short, light, pretty non-controversial conversation.
Usually with someone you've just met or maybe don't know well.
Right. Often with someone in passing, like waiting in line, or maybe as an opening before a more in-depth discussion, like with a coworker before a meeting starts. It serves as an icebreaker.
Make things less awkward.
Exactly. It makes interactions less awkward, builds a little rapport, and generally shows friendliness and openness.
Okay, so what are some common, safe topics for small talk? The first one is almost universal, right? The weather.
The absolute classic. It's universally understood, simple, neutral, non-controversial usually.
Unless you steer it into climate change debates.
Right. Probably avoid that for initial small talk. It's a classic icebreaker everyone can relate to. You can use simple yes-no questions to start, like, isn't it a gorgeous day? Or, can you believe how rainy it's been lately?
Or those humorous ones about extreme temperatures.
Yeah, like, is it hot enough for you?
Right.
Or is it cold enough for you? These are kind of rhetorical, just a way to comment on the extreme weather and share a common experience. They're easy to answer and make for a comfortable, low-stakes start.
And from the weather, you can often pivot to something else, right? Like, nice to get some sun finally. Makes me want to explore. Are you from around here?
Exactly. It's a good bridge. Another safe and common topic is your current location. This works well in places like parks, zoos, libraries, museums, or just when you're waiting somewhere.
What kind of questions?
You could ask, this park is great, do you come here often? Or how long have you been coming here? If you're at, say, a dog park, you already have something obvious in common you can ask about their dog.
Good point. Or just generally?
Yeah, do you live near here? Or do you live in the area? Or if they also seem like a visitor, are you enjoying your visit to the city?
And for specific locations like a zoo or museum, you can get a bit more specific.
Definitely. Have you seen this specific exhibit? I heard it's fantastic. Or which exhibit have you liked the most so far? Shows engagement with the place.
What about if you're in transit? Airport? Train station?
Common questions are, so where are you headed? Or the classic, are you traveling for business or pleasure?
But a note of caution on that last one.
Yes, just be a little sensitive. They might be traveling for difficult reasons, like a family emergency or a funeral. If their answer is brief or they seem hesitant, don't press the issue, just move on.
Okay, good advice. Our third topic area is plans past, present, or future. This is particularly useful if you run into someone you know but haven't seen in a while.
Right. A smooth way to re-engage is, hey, how are you? What have you been up to recently?
And if you genuinely want to catch up more later,
You might say, wow, we have so much to catch up on. What are you up to this weekend? This implies a desire to potentially get together, opening the door for a follow-up invitation.
and for making those informal invitations.
A very common and casual phrase is, do you want to grab coffee sometime? Or grab a drink, grab lunch, grab dinner, grab brunch.
Using the word grab. Why grab?
Grab suggests something informal, maybe spontaneous, less serious or planned than a formal, would you like to have dinner? Invitation. It makes it easier for the other person to decline if they're busy or not interested without feeling awkward.
Makes sense. And the source notes a quick tip for guys asking girls out using this.
Yeah, just to be mindful of tone. If you're a guy asking a girl to grab coffee and you don't intend it as a date, make sure your tone is very light and casual to avoid any potential discomfort or misinterpretation.
Okay? And two very safe, universally applicable questions about plans.
Yeah, these work almost any time. I can't believe it's already time for upcoming holiday like Christmas, Thanksgiving, spring break. Do you have any fun plans? Or just simply, do you have any plans for this weekend? Evergreen small talk prompts.
Okay. Our fourth powerful small talk topic is a job or work.
Yes. With strangers, a very common and totally acceptable question is, so what do you do?
Which means?
It means, what is your job or profession? It might sound a little vague, but it's universally understood in this context.
And follow-up questions.
You could ask, oh, interesting, how long have you been doing that? Or how long have you been an architect? You could also ask, so what did you do before this? Meaning their previous job, or maybe they were a student or traveling.
Can you ask why they chose their job?
You can maybe phrase it like, so what made you get into their field, e.g. nursing? This kind of asks about their passion or the story behind their career choice, which can be interesting.
Or that classic question.
Ah, yes, if money was no object, what job would you really want to do? That often reveals someone's true passions and can be a great way to discover shared interests beyond just their current profession.
And you mentioned earlier the use of so at the beginning of these questions, like, so what do you do? Why is that so common?
Yeah, it's a really common filler word in conversational American English. It acts as a kind of social lubricant. Starting a question with so creates a smoother, more casual entry.
Makes it sound less like an interrogation.
Exactly. It softens the directness, makes it sound more like natural flowing conversation rather than a formal inquiry or a list of questions. Subtle but effective.
Okay. What about small talk with coworkers? People you already know.
You can be a bit more specific, obviously, since you share a context. Simple things like, hey, what's new in the marketing department today? Or how's that big project going?
What if you're not sure what they're working on or want to keep it light?
You could try, do you have any fun or exciting projects coming up? It shows general interest without being too nosy about specifics.
Okay, so to really excel at small talk and make genuine connections, our source offers 4 really valuable tips. What's the first one?
First, and this is surprisingly crucial in our modern age, put your phone away.
Seems basic, but yeah.
It really does. But Actively putting your phone down or away instantly shows the other person you are present, you're engaged, and you value the interaction. It prevents you from mentally disconnecting.
Okay, tip number 2.
Be genuinely curious about the other person. Don't just fire off questions from a list. Show sincere interest. Ask follow-up questions, especially why or how, questions that invite more than just a yes-no answer.
Like instead of, do you like dogs? Maybe, oh, cool dog. Why did you decide to get this particular breed?
Exactly. Or how long have you had him? What's his personality like? These open-ended questions show real interest and encourage more detailed, interesting response.
Good one. Tip number 3.
Do not interrogate. Share about yourself, too. Small talk needs to be a two-way street, a reciprocal exchange.
So balance asking questions
with sharing relevant personal connections or experiences. For instance, if someone mentions they're a math teacher, instead of just asking another question, you could connect by saying, oh, that's fascinating. You know, I had an awesome math teacher in high school who really made me appreciate it.
So it creates a shared connection and keeps the conversation flowing back and forth.
Precisely. It stops it from feeling like an interview.
And the 4th tip.
Avoid fixating on your personal favorite topic, especially if it's really niche or potentially controversial.
Even if you're really passionate about it.
Even then, while you can certainly mention your interests, don't dominate the entire conversation by launching into a long lecture on your specific niche passion, no matter how excited you are. Keep the conversation balanced. Let the other person talk about their interests too. Allow both parties to contribute and feel heard.
Okay, those are 4 excellent tips. So this is really key for you, our listener. Small talk isn't just about politeness or, filling awkward silences.
Not at all.
It's a vital social skill. It unlocks deeper connections, helps you truly understand and engage with American culture on a more personal level. It's really about being present, being curious, and being genuinely willing to connect beyond just those necessary transactional interactions.
Well said.
Finally, let's explore a really nuanced and highly effective way of talking about your vacation or travels, one that will make your stories far more engaging and authentic, using the get to versus have to distinction.
Yes. Get to versus have to. This is a great one for storytelling.
It really is. These seemingly simple verbs, get and have, become powerful tools for expressing a sense of privilege versus a sense of burden in your travel stories.
So when you use get to do something, like I get to visit this place, what does that convey?
It conveys a sense of honor or privilege or feeling incredibly lucky to have an opportunity. It adds this really positive emotional layer to your descriptions. It highlights the joyful, the special, maybe the unexpected positive aspects of your journey.
Can you give an example?
Like, I get to be here in this beautiful nature, or looking back, we got to see amazing iguanas on the trail right up close. It implies a wonderful experience, maybe one you didn't expect, almost like it was a gift.
Okay. And on the flip side, have to do something.
That conveys a sense of something difficult, maybe undesirable, or a burden, a necessary chore, an obligation, or a challenge you faced. It describes the effort required or the necessities you couldn't avoid.
So examples might be,
we had to drive on some really difficult winding roads to get to the viewpoint. Or maybe even something unrelated to the fun part. I had to study for my exam for 2 hours every morning, even though I was on vacation. It describes the effort or the less fun necessity.
And grammatically, how do these work?
It's simple. Both expressions, get to and have to, are followed by to, and then the simplest form of the verb, what we call the unconjugated or base form verb.
Like eat, look, see.
Exactly. So we got to eat dinner, or he had to look for the key, or you get to see the mountains. The key is just to conjugate the get or have part according to the tense you're speaking in. Past tense is usually got to and had to. Present tense, get to and have to. Future will get to, will have to, and so on.
And what's fascinating here, I think, is how these seemingly simple verb structures, just get to and have to, allow you to convey such nuanced feelings and perspectives about your travel experiences.
Yeah, it's more than just stating facts, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's expressing the texture and the emotion of your journey. Was this moment a privilege, a joy, or was it a challenge, a necessity? Using these adds real depth and relatability to your storytelling.
Our source shares some fantastic illustrative anecdotes from a trip to Costa Rica that perfectly demonstrate this powerful linguistic distinction. The speaker described the initial challenge of finding the key to their bungalow.
Right, the key wasn't there.
Exactly. She said they had to wait for about 15 minutes in the rain for someone to bring it. That's the clear have to part, right?
Yeah.
The minor inconvenience, the thing they were obliged to endure.
The burden. But then...
But a classic get to moment emerged directly from that very hiccup. Because of that problem with the key and the delay, they then got to have an amazing dinner at the farm next door.
The unexpected positive.
Totally. Featuring fresh rice, beans, plantains, chicken, amazing guava juice, all freshly produced right there on the farm. This unexpected positive outcome, this beautiful culinary experience emerging directly from a minor frustration, is a perfect example of a get-to moment that makes a travel story so much richer.
That's a great example. Privilege born from inconvenience.
And another great example from the same trip involved visiting a waterfall. They got to see an amazing waterfall, which was clearly a highlight, a moment of wonder, the privilege, the get-to.
There's always a but with waterfalls, it seems.
Right. But to actually get down to it, you have to walk down 500 steps. And then, of course, you have to walk back up those same 500 steps to return to your car.
Oof. That's definitely the have to, the challenge, the physical effort required.
Exactly. Yet they emphasized that despite the steps, it was still tons of fun and totally worth it. Which beautifully shows how both types of experiences, the privileged get-to moments and the challenging have-to parts, contribute to the overall adventure and make for a much more compelling and realistic story.
Yeah, it's not all perfect Instagram moments. Sometimes the struggle is part of the memory.
True. And looking ahead to their future travel plans within Costa Rica, they hope they would get to see some more animals, like sloths, monkeys, anteaters, parrots, macaws.
The desired privileges.
Yes. And maybe get to go to a hanging bridge park. These are their aspirations, the special experiences they hope they'll be lucky enough to have. But they also acknowledge the practical reality.
The have to.
The have to. Mentioning you have to drive a little bit of a distance to reach those incredible remote locations, acknowledging the effort involved.
So this distinction is really like a secret weapon for telling better travel stories.
That's exactly how you should think of it, our listener. These expressions, get to and have to, are your key for telling truly engaging travel stories. They let you describe the full spectrum of your adventures, the joys, the highlights, the unexpected detours, and the satisfying overcome challenges.
All using natural, evocative English that conveys the real emotional landscape of your journey. Makes your stories richer, more relatable.
Wow, okay, what a truly comprehensive deep dive that was into navigating travel in the U.S. We really covered a lot of ground.
We certainly have.
Everything from mastering those polite restaurant phrases and understanding the critical, non-negotiable nuances of tipping
That 20%.
to deciphering American friendliness, that peach analogy, and confidently engaging in small talk, and even, just now, how to vividly describe your adventures using the powerful get to and have to expressions. You really have a robust toolkit now for your next trip.
And if we connect all this back to the bigger picture, it becomes abundantly clear, doesn't it, that true communicative competence for travelers isn't just about grammatical accuracy, though obviously that's important.
Right.
It's deeply, deeply rooted in cultural literacy. It's about understanding the unspoken rules, picking up on the subtle social cues, and grasping the emotional landscape that collectively shape everyday interactions.
And that understanding allows you to not just survive.
Exactly. Not just survive, but to truly thrive, to feel more comfortable, and to forge more meaningful connections during your travels. It's about navigating the culture as much as the language.
And this leaves us with an important, maybe a reflective question for you, our curious listener. Armed with all these insights, particularly this last piece on how to express both the privilege and the challenging moments of a trip, how will you describe your next travel adventure using get to and have to?
Ooh, good question.
What unexpected get-to moments are you now hoping for on your next journey? And perhaps, just as importantly, what have-to situations, what potential challenges are you now feeling more prepared to navigate with newfound ease and confidence, thanks to what we've unpacked today?
Something to think about as you plan that next trip.
Definitely. Keep exploring, keep learning, and remember, with these insights from our deep dive, your next trip abroad, especially to an English-speaking country, will hopefully be truly easy breezy. Until next time, stay curious.